though I walk through the valley of death, I'm just one of many killers that's a part of the set. Y'all be talking out your ass like it's none of us left. You must be higher than giraffe pussy, hey what's next? Y'all don't really want the competition taking the belt. I'd rather die than take an L, y'all don't know how I felt. I be murdering the game, you just play with yourself. You kinda wanna say my name, but you got no help. I believe in Mr. Chaos, I'm rocking the bells, but it's dinner time, fucker, I'ma help myself. I don't want one bite, bitch, I came for the plate, cause I'm hungry like a dude with no food for a day. I ain't really wanna snap, but you rappers on the way down. I'ma fight till my last breath, never lay down. Hear you talking shit, but I don't care what you say now. Hustle till I hit $1 billion any day now. I'm just on this podcast tip to hit a lick, while you mumble mouth rappers on your knees suck a dick. Claim to be a fighter, but we know that you's a bitch. Half you hoes ain't even writing all the lyrics that you spit. I've been putting in work, but y'all don't know what it is to work a 90-hour week just to feed your kids. I've been down in the gutter, fight my way to the top. Thanking God for all my people who ain't letting me stop. 24 balls in and I'm only getting better. Ho, sticking up the whole rap game, let the cheddar go. Yeah. That's part one. Just wait. Part two coming soon.
This is Mr. Impact Wrestling himself, Moose, and you're listening to the Irish Whip.
Hookers? Hookers and coke?
Hookers and coke, man.
You're the only pro wrestler I know that wants to do the shit in the morning.
Yeti, you're a f***ing moron.
Put it this way, I think Sami Callihan might as well just change his name to Invader
I
1.
want to know why. Like, he can dodge any question. Like, I'll tell anyone that. You can tell me but I'm going to ask specific questions.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
WrestlingNewsSource.com. All the rest of you yahoos are out there dilly-dillying you little wankers. We're actually receiving real wrestling news.
This is
Brett screwed Brett.
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Brett screwed Brett.
hold two, arm bar.
Hey, get a nice shot of the brand new Mr. and Mrs. Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
I hate you. I hate you. I hate your hat. I hate your t-shirts. I hate your wristbands. I hate your shoes. I hate your music. I hate the C Nation. I hate everything that you stand for.
Sodas rule.
Yeah, they do.
Though I walk through the valley of death, I'm just one of many killers that's a part of the set. Y'all be talking out your ass like it's none of us left. You must be higher than giraffe pussy, hey what's next? Y'all don't really want the competition taking the belt. I'd rather die than take an L, y'all don't know how I felt. I be murdering the game, you just play with yourself. You kinda wanna say my name, but you got no help. I believe in Mr. Chaos, I'm rocking the bells, but it's dinner time, fucker, I'ma help myself. I don't want one bite, bitch, I came for the plate, cause I'm hungry like a dude with no food for a day. I ain't really wanna snap, but you rappers on the way down. I'ma fight till my last breath, never lay down. Hear you talking shit, but I don't care what you say now. Hustle till I hit $1 billion any day now. I'm just on this podcast tip to hit a lick, while you mumble mouth rappers on your knees suck a dick. Claim to be a fighter, but we know that you's a bitch. Half you hoes ain't even writing all the lyrics that you spit. I've been putting in work, but y'all don't know what it is to work a 90-hour week just to feed your kids. I've been down in the gutter, fight my way to the top. Thanking God for all my people who ain't letting me stop. 24 balls in and I'm only getting better. Ho, sticking up the whole rap game.
What's up, TIW Mafia? It's a Yeti. We're hanging out. AKIRA is back in the green room right now.
That's part one.
Happy to have you here. It's another MLW interview we're lucky to have. Man, this dude is super busy, traveling everywhere you can possibly think of. GCW is where I love to watch him, specifically now with MLW. This is from their website. So AKIRA is a new breed of fighter, one that I love. A deathmatch, I guess you could consider, but also well-rounded in a lot of other styles. Marrying catch wrestling and deathmatch fighting style, a seemingly unholy matrimony. AKIRA has brought together Inokiism and a crazy deathmatch stigmata of Jun Kasai. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. He calls this dangerous blend of fighting catch death. And as most of you listeners know, I'm a huge fan of Drew Gulak. I love catch wrestling. I love anytime anybody can combine those two. So without further ado, man, welcome, Akira, man. Thanks for taking the time, and I appreciate it. I really do.
No problem.
Our short backstory, like I'm a huge CZW fan, so it's been a long time since I've been able to see, even the other night, Manser and Ricky Shane Page going at it. And to me, like I tweeted out, it's such a great platform for people that aren't accustomed to it or have ever seen it. And I love the production in it. It reminds me of like early TBS. So props to that. But welcome to the show, man. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
You're busier than hell. You got a cool backstory, man. You got a cool backstory. Like you graduated college, correct?
Yeah. I graduated college.
Worked 3 jobs, hating all of them at the same time. Family weren't really fans of you choosing to chase your dream, so you packed your shit and hit the road. And here
it was literally they were not very happy with it. My dad was like, well, you can keep a job, but this is just a hobby. And I eventually lost the job because it was a like a homeless shelter, like missionary kind of place. And the people there was one lady in particular that treated a bunch of the people that worked there and a bunch of the homeless people like garbage. And she was seen as kind of like one of the higher ups. And eventually I just had it one day. She yelled at me over something, and I called her out for it. And I lost that job, and I got home, and my parents were like, it's either you live here and get a job or wrestling. I said, and literally in the middle of the night, packed up all my stuff, dipped. They texted me the next day, and they go, where you at? And I go, I left. I'm currently 400 miles away. And they're like, what? I go, yeah, bye. Haven't been back.
I'm just sending you a DM. I don't know if you can get it on the screen, but the mic is a little scratchy. But it might just be a connection issue. Talk again for me.
Talking.
It's a little scratchy. It's just it might be the Bluetooth connection.
Possibly. Let me try this actually.
This is the best part about podcasts, man. This is when you get to know people.
And
there, you're good. You're good. Yeah, you're good right there. That's awesome, man. To me, that's amazing because I respect that. Like I respect somebody that's willing to do whatever that you wanted it, man. You wanted to chase it. You were tired of it. Like I guess the follow up question is are you in contact with your family? Do you talk to your family? Have you guys made amends? Are you? Is that you don't have to answer the question, man. It's just one of those follow ups. Like I want to know, man. I just like you're chasing your dream. Are they understanding where you're coming from, or is it still difficult for them?
I think with the success, it was easier for them to, like my dad and I talk a bit more, but it's still like a very strained relationship. I have very not, like my siblings I don't talk to. My mom and I do not have a great relationship at all. Her and I very often butt heads, and it's just I've literally basically cut her out of my life. Like she'll text me, and I'll just kind of like just read it and go, not responding, just because it's a very strained relationship due to a lot of stuff going back to when I was a kid. And for me, it's just like I'm going to prove my point to you one way or another. And if it's me not talking to you to show how you treated me has kind of, caused this relationship to be strained, that's how it goes. Like it was very much a toxic relationship of, like I would listen to like Iron Maiden and stuff like that, and she'd come downstairs, just trash my stuff and throw it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is like in 2009, 2010, where it's like, it's been 20 years since that kind of attitude was a thing. And eventually it like got to the point where I called her out for being like, Mommy, listen to Motley Crue. It's the same shit. And then she kind of was like, and I just basically like I point out these little hypocrisies. I do it to my dad too. And it's just, it built for years and years and years and years to the point where Right now, I'm just happy not to be affiliated, not to talk to them at all. Like my dad and I can talk to, but my brothers, I don't talk to. My sister, I don't talk to. Most of my family, I don't talk to at this point. Just, they think I'm kind of crazy. They think what I'm doing is, chasing a fool's errand, a fool's dream, and I'm content living my life without it right now. And when the point comes where I can say this is my life and it's, been my career and it's given me everything that I have, which it has already in 4 or 5 years now. But, come down the line when I'm sitting on a good nest egg and wrestling is all that I'm doing and wrestling and twitching is all that I'm doing, then I can maybe go, here's what I've done. I've done it without you. They've not invested a single dime into my career. They've barely helped at all. The one I guess who would help, I'd say, has helped the most has been my dad, because at the end of the day, he saw how dedicated I was to it and said, okay, I've got your back no matter what. So,
dude, I respect and appreciate your answer, man. That's candid and it's from the heart, and I absolutely appreciate that. I'm a preschool teacher by nature, right? And I work in, I guess you could call it an impoverished neighborhood, right? So I have a lot of kids that don't have family or have trauma, like a lot of trauma, like generational type trauma. So I can definitely relate to where you're coming from and empathize with that, because that's it happens, man. It just happens, and it's not like it's family, and you're justified in feelings, and I feel like making those decisions are probably what was best for you at that time and gave you some sort of peace and be able to be centered so you could focus on what you want to do, man. So I appreciate it. That's a huge thing to say, and I respect it immensely.
Thank you.
You're a huge fan of Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm like I was in Japan for 7 months when I was in the Marine Corps. I'm going to date myself. This is back in '98, and
Oh,
I
Lord.
had never had a chance to. I was a huge fan of our product, right? But I was so narrow-minded to not understand that back then, like, there was actually pro wrestling in Japan. So I started going to shows in Japan, and I fell in love instantaneously, because the way the crowd reacts, the way the matches happen, what you can do, what you can't do, clapping, whistling, whatever it may be, it was amazing to me. What brought you to that Shinsuke side, of just when did you fall in love with that?
I mean, I was watching that style back when I was like a kid. So in 1998, I was 5 years old. But like my dad, my uncle, like they would record like old ECW, New Japan, where you can get them like old, the trader tapes or whatever. My uncle would have some of those, and
I probably traded with your uncle at some point.
old Indiana. But I would go and sneak those in the middle of the night and watch those when I could. But it was like those, like the Taka Michinokus, all those kinds of guys, like the Mudas. Like I always kind of drew my eye more as a kid. It's the same with Bret Hart, like where Bret wasn't the most outspoken wrestler, but it was the body language, it was the facial expressions, and it was the technical aptitude that Bret had and that all the Japanese guys had, that it clicked something within me. And back then it wasn't like I'm a Korean Japanese white kid in the middle of Indiana. It wasn't like I connect with it on that level, but it was just like they're doing something on a level that these big muscle meathead dudes are not doing, that I appreciate. But it was always back then, that I grew up. Like when I hit my teens, I became more into music and kind of fell out of it with wrestling. Which, I mean, it's just kid stuff, kid angst. You focus more on that and your own self pity than you do other things. But then when I did go to college, and like my freshman, sophomore years, when I became friends with the friends that I'm still friends with today. And I sat and watched I think it was it was the NXT takeover where Shinsuke debuted.
Nice.
Because I was kind of deviating back into wrestling. Because I think that was, I don't know, was that before? That was before Mania. So I was dipping my toes back in the year before at that Royal Rumble. I did done some Royal Rumble party. I just showed up, and they were like, "Hey, here's your number," and I somehow picked the winner. I don't remember who the winner was, and I watched that NXT Takeover, and it was like cool matches. It's fun. You know, wrestling's a bit different, much more action oriented than some of the dog shit that I used to watch back. That when I kind of fell out, like there was a lot of stuff where it was like rest hold, because all I knew was in reality. Because when you're a kid, you don't process things of like, oh, this is WCW, this is ECW, this is New Japan. It was just like, this is wrestling. And in reality, especially come the mid 2000s, all there really was to me was WWE. And I got so bored with it, man. It was so boring. Like the John Cena shit, I was just like, I don't care. I'm done. Tapping out. I'm going to go focus on Iron Maiden and playing guitar and stuff like that. But it was around that time I started watching again, and I was go, okay, the NXT product is very different. Um, even aspects of WWE were different. I said, okay, I'm kind of vibing with this again. And then I just fell down the rabbit hole of going back through ROH, going back through ECW, and just getting into the nitty gritty of it. And that, which led into me seeing the matches with like, there was ROH with like Tanahashi, AJ Styles, and just, I was off to the races, man. But specifically where wrestling really clicked was Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn takeover. I think it was Dallas, I believe.
Yeah.
And boom, I was like, oh, I really love wrestling again. I really love wrestling. And I didn't click in my head of I could do this, but I was like, I love it. I love it. I love it. It was that unspoken charm that Nakamura had, where I was like, oh my God, wrestling is so much bigger and better than what it was when I fell out of love with it. There's more.
He's the entrance is huge. Like everything about him is huge. Like I struggle as you do because I still am, I guess you could say, a huge NXT fan. For the first 5 years, I didn't miss an episode, and I watched every time they had technically a pay-per-view.
Black and Gold was special, man. Black and Gold was special.
Oh, it was just I would sacrifice almost anything because it was true. Like Finn Balor and Shinsuke and all these people that I just was like, man, they're and they did something, and then like they lost it. And I feel you when you're talking about the 2000s, because that's where, when you're talking about your uncles, like that was my rabbit hole. It was ROH, it was CZW. I mean, there was times where, and Drew will probably kill me for this, but when he was going to school at Drexel and he was working at CZW, I mean, there was times that we would talk, and they were going through with DJ and Maven. They're walking through getting stuff for the show, and that access was huge, and it was fun, and it introduced me to a lot of things that made me appreciate the deathmatch stuff. And I think to them, it was like I was just a fan in Montana that was literally watching this stuff from thousands of miles away, and the only way I could watch this was through a screen. I always say this is the only. I've been to like 10 live events, but I live in Montana, and they're out here like once every 4 or 5 months. But I think that we're changing that. There's some people that are looking to come out here. I mean, there's people that are interested in it. So it's cool to me to be able to, one, like talk to you about those influences of Shinsei, because if I didn't have that, like if I didn't have that passion through NXT, that's what restarted me. It kickstarted me hard because I bought into the characters, right? And I started watching wrestling like I was 10 again. Like I put everything aside, and I was like, man, I just want to watch the story. I want to watch them tell the story. And it was perfectly laid, and a lot of times, sometimes it missed, but it was perfect for me. So I get it when you say you fell out.
Nothing is 100% in what we do, man, because there's always some weird audible, something could happen. But for me, why I loved that Nakamura and Zayn match so much is why I like a lot of the Japanese presentation more. Is it's the story is done in the ring, the promos and everything else that you do after or before is just extra stuff. I can watch that match and understand the story from beginning to end. The old guard out with the new guard, and it was just perfect. perfectly done, perfectly executed. Had the crowd in the palm of their hands, and it was just quintessential pro wrestling. If there was matches that I could present to someone who isn't a fan of wrestling, I could go,
Yes.
sit down, shut up, watch this. Sami Zayn versus Nakamura. And if I would be like, okay, do you want to sit and watch something more epic? Okay. I'll sit them down and I will say, you're going to watch Kazuchika Okada versus Katsuyori Shibata, Sakura Genesis. Sit here, watch it, don't say a word, don't keep your eyes at the screen. Just watch and talk your way through it. And
yeah,
I'd be like, there's going to be something there that you're going to go, whoa. Specifically in that Okada versus Shibata match, there's like 50 things you could go, whoa, to.
Do you feel like I was having this conversation because my wife's actually going through that right now? She has only been a fan for like 3 years, so she's starting to go down some of those rabbit holes. And the other night we were watching MLW, and we were talking about ring sizes, like the difference in ring sizes, and how that either helps or hinders, whoever may be in there working at that time. How do you have to change? Like, are there without really going too much into detail, like how much do you have to change between knowing what size the ring is and what you're going to do?
It's just awareness of where you're in. I prefer the larger rings. I hate smaller rings because I think smaller rings just look, I think, a little silly. And I like the bigger, grander ring sizes, like the New Japans or the Noahs, where it's just like it's big. They've got they've got the turnbuckle pads. They've got the mats with all the sponsorships on them. When it's bigger, I feel like it's presented better and it looks better. But everyone has their own preferences. Some people like the 16s, some people like the 18s. Me, I like the 18s or the 20s. Like ICW, like sometimes the ring just seems enormous, and it just seems like there's so much room to play around and do things. Smaller rings to me just feel a little bit more constraining. But some people like them because they don't have they don't have good cardio.
Right. So death matches, man. I read where you were asked to just do it one night, like no preparation, no nothing, like no, you weren't booked. Like, it wasn't really a booking. It was like, hey, do you want to do a death match? And you're like, yeah, why not?
I went to GCW in 2019, and I went to the infamous "They Said It Couldn't Be Done." Jun Kasai's return to America. Watched him versus Alex Colon, and I rode with Alex all the way to the show and all the way back. Never met him before a day in my life, and little did I know the impact that he and Kasai-san would have to my life. Went there, had never seen a death match live, never. I'd seen like Necro versus Joe. I'd seen some death matches, like my trainer. I would watch some, and he would have me understand the art and appreciate it. But to me, I was like, I could never do this. Oh my goodness. And to me, it was a lot of like guys just throwing shit at each other, and I was just like, whatever, But then I watched that match. I watched two matches. I watched Nick Gage versus Schlack, where they just beat the absolute dog shit out of each other.
Yep.
Where I was like, this is two monsters just going to war. And I understood. I was like, it clicked for me. I was like, I get the story. It's cool. Then I watched Kasai and Cologne, and it was just like fireworks. It was like an orchestra was playing in the back of my head as I was watching it. I was like, it's pro wrestling. It's pro wrestling, but even crazier. These guys are pro wrestlers, but they're tougher than pro wrestlers. And that's deathmatch wrestling when it's done to its best. If you watch Kasai-san's documentary, you watch read his book, and he even basically says that it was like his dad would point out like, it's fake, that wouldn't hurt, that's okay, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make sure you never say that again. And literally that was when I heard that quote, and I was like, that's essentially my entire philosophy when I do regular pro wrestling or deathmatch wrestling. I'm gonna make sure that you go, that hurt, the whole time. You never second guess. But I watched that match, and it was just like, it was the epiphany. It's like zeitgeist to my vision quest of
Right.
pro wrestling. And it was through there that the person I was with, Aiden Blackheart, got a text from John Wayne Murdoch and Reed Bentley. They were like, "Hey, do you want to go to Mexico?" And Aiden said, "Yeah." And he looked at me and goes, "Hey, Kira." I go, "Yeah. You want to go to Mexico?" "Yeah, sure." There's no spot on the card, but I was like, I don't care. I'll go to Mexico. I've never been to Mexico. I've never been out of the country a day in my life. And that basically led to the day of hop in the car. "Hey, hi, I'm John. Hi, I'm Reed. Let's go to Mexico." Went to Mexico. Went to Monterrey, and never been there a day in my life. Had my regular wrestling trunks, these little like young boy trunks, knee pads, kick pads, and I was dressed in a very nice suit. And they got there and like, "Hey, you don't have a spot on the show, but if anything happens, we'll let you know." I go, "Okay, cool. I'm not worried. I'm here to be here. It's cool that I'm here." And then we get to the hotel, and a bunch of luchadors thought I was very pretty, and they wanted they asked the guy.
Muy guapo, muy guapo.
They asked the guys. They're like, "Hey, is it cool that we can go and have sex with him?" And they're like, "No, you can't. No, he's a young boy." And they go, "Oh, okay." And then they're like, "Hey, do you want to be on the show?" "Yeah." "Okay, we got one spot though. It's a death match. Glass, fire, barbed wire. Me. You got weed?" "Yeah."
Right.
"Do we got tequila?" "Yeah." "Let's do a fucking death match, bro." And went out there and basically in trunks. I was basically looking like Jeff King, if anyone knows who Jeff King is. And went out there, and I had probably the craziest experience anyone ever has for their first death match. My first tube shot I ever took wasn't a single tube. It was a bundle, this like the size of a giant log.
It's huge. It was huge.
Final Destination style. And I had no idea it was coming. It hit me in the back, and it was like an out-of-body experience for a moment, because I'd never felt anything like that before in my life. But then when the blood started pouring over my head, as I told the dude in the ring, Sick Boy, who was like my wrestling uncle, I told him, I said, "Stab me in the face, motherfucker." And he looked at me like, stab me, just pouring. And then my Aiden was in the match too, and he looks up as he's fighting the other guy, and he goes to check on me. He's worried, and he sees the blood on my face and me screaming, starts swinging on the dude. He's like, "Okay, Akira's fine. Don't worry about it." And after that, man, it was just off to the races, And then I had my first death match in America. Nearly died.
That was brutal.
Yeah, there's so many infamous clips of it, but it was me getting thrown through a pane of untempered glass, which I didn't know there was good glass or bad glass. How
That's
do you know?
bad glass.
And just a giant shard just cut my inner thigh. I was basically this close away from cutting an artery and being a dead person. Didn't know that until the doctor was like, "Yo, you were close." And I go, "Oh, okay, that's cool." This is also while I had a cut basically just on the tip of my elbow, and the doctor had his finger shoved inside, and I could see him doing the skin to make sure there was no glass. He's like, "Do you feel that?" And I go, "No." He goes, "Okay, yeah, there's no glass," but he's like, "You almost died." And I go, "Okay, cool." He's like, "You're very nonchalant about this." And I go, "I'm here, man. What can I do?" That's like my philosophy in life of, okay, I'm here. What do I got to do now? Even when I had this one, I don't know if I can see it. There's I'll do this actually. That one right there.
That's
right
brutal.
Here. Yeah. Me versus Matt Tremont. I basically got shanked with a light tube, and as this is like 5 minutes of the match, I just stop. I look down and go, I don't have this internal panic of, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I better go to the back, I better quit the match." I go, look down. I go, man, okay. And the ref was like, "We should finish." I looked at the ref, I said, "If you call this match, I'm going to beat the shit out of you in the middle of the ring." And the match continued for another 15 minutes.
Right?
Literally, it looked like a chest burster came out of me. But that was, You know, like my foray into death matches was definitely not for the faint of heart, and definitely was not one that I advise other people to do. Definitely, I worked with a colorful cast of characters, but those experiences made me who I am today, I would say, in and out of the ring.
So you bring up Matt Tremont, and that brings me to Ricky Shane Page and you and Raven. And Tremont's a beast. And I watched, I think the only, like when it was supposed to be Tremont's retirement match when Ricky Shane Page and Matt Tremont went round on H2O Wrestling. To this day, like I probably watch that thing once every other week because it's so brutal. I want to show this real quick, and we'll talk about you, Ricky Shane Page, and the Raven Effect, and you guys on MLW. Is that cool?
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm a martyr for all the people that were left behind. Trust in Raven. I feel their pain. Trust in Raven. I'm their savior. I'm their hope. Trust in Raven. They believe in the cause, and they're dangerous. Very dangerous. Trust in Raven. They can trust in me. Trust in Raven. Trust in Raven. Trust in Raven. Trust in Raven. Trust in Raven.
MLW Underground, Tuesday. Only on Reels.
What is that like, dude? When you watch that, what what do you get emotion wise? What do you get?
Oh God, dude, it is a wide variety of feelings, but definitely as I was hanging there with Ricky and hanging there with Raven, I'm like, what am I doing? Like 5-year-old me would shit himself and would, like, hey, yeah, you know that dude you're watching on Uncle Gerald's VHS tape. Yeah, you're doing some of them on TV now. It's definitely something I go. I'm not like freaking out about over, but it's definitely like a very 180 moment of just like I'm here right now. Huh. I always joked with Ricky that like because his student and my mortal enemy Atticus
Right.
Kogan. I've always joked that Atticus is Raven and I'm the dreamer of that dynamic. And as I sat there, I looked at Rick and I go, complete role reversal here, complete 180. It's like they got the wrong guy. But it's definitely something where I sit there and go, life is very interesting. Life has a very funny way of playing these things out. And Raven and I sitting there waiting for it to go out to beat the piss out of whoever. I just sat there and go, my dad's going to get a kick out of this. Because
right?
my dad texted me and he goes, hey, since your thing's on Reels, I can actually watch. And I haven't said a word about when I'm actually, because he's taping them all on DVR. And I haven't said what I'm doing yet. So he's gonna see very soon. And he's gonna be like, what? And I'm gonna go, yeah, this is what I'm doing, I guess.
Do you think that's like? Do you feel validation in that? I mean, is that? I mean, is it, or is it more bittersweet?
It's, I guess I feel like it's a bit of both, but I don't want to say validation. There's only validation when everything's all said and done and you come out cleaner on the other side. Right now, I'm neck deep in the trenches of it. It's too early to say I've got validation for all the things because some people, they celebrate too early and then things go wrong and they eat their crow. you know, and but I feel like I'm on the right path of doing things my way. Like even like my tag on every form of social media is the Akira way. I'm doing things my way. So I will have that validation when a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, I can look back and it benefited my career and it puts me in an even better place. And I go, there's my validation. I didn't say I had validation for my tenure in ICW until like last year, where I looked where I was at, and all the people that had started doing death matches had petered off into the ether. They'd fallen away, and I'm still like that first original young guy from 2020 post COVID that's still remaining. I'm still, you know, doing things in the public eye and making people still interested in death matches. So
I'm a huge.
when it comes to feeling that validation, I tend to give it 2 to 3 years before I can go, there's my validation. But
Gotcha. I feel like I'm a huge Beyond fan, so I think by fault that makes me a Ricky Shane Page fan one way or another.
Sorry.
Yeah, right. Um, is it kind of like when you like? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't really know that MLW had signed you until your phone started blowing up.
Things like I it was set in stone probably at the beginning of the year, but I didn't know it because Fightful had come out about it, and generally that means okay, then you're gonna hear about it in like 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
But then they did it basically like all of my announcements got announced at a very good time to spike, interest in my name. It was just very. I wasn't ready for it when they actually did it. I was waiting for it, and they didn't do it. I go, okay, whatever. And then they did it, and everyone's like, whoa, my god! And I go, oh, okay. So yeah, I didn't know. I tend to find all things through social media, like all the curious little happenings of my social media life or my wrestling life. I find out through that, and I go, oh, okay, that's happening, cool. Like what was it like last year? When Mox wore my hoodie thing, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I was in the gym, and I was warming up, going through, getting ready to start. I got off the treadmill, whatever it was, and all of a sudden my phone starts burning, and I'm like, my phone's vibrating, freaking out. I thought someone had died again, and I go, what is
feel you on
happening?
that.
And then I look at my phone and I go, oh. Go text my shirt maker, go, hey, give me that design. I got to get that online so people could buy it. That's all I thought. And I texted Masha and I go, what is happening? And she goes, something cool. And I go, oh, okay, I guess. Like literally all these things that I found out were just through social media. It's always been that way. Like a lot of my match announcements, I find out through social media. Personal things, I find out through social media. I go, oh, that's what I'm doing,
Are you is it fun? Like, cause we interviewed Masha about 2 years ago before she came over here. She did it. I think she was still in Japan. So I was up at 6 a.m. How fun is it to be able to travel with and sometimes work with and alongside, and like you guys are really this is what puts the relationship to a test, I think, is when you're always in the same space. Either you're really doing the same thing, but you find out first, like, can you be friends? Are we friends first and then relationship next? But can you, how does it work, man? How does it work for you guys?
Your guess is as good as ours. We do what we do. We were friends first, when I jumped off the roof. She was in Japan. She saw it. She liked it. I guess you will get a different answer depending on who you're asking, on who followed who first. But that's what happened. We'd shoot sporadic messages, back and forth. She'd do something. Like she changed her hair to like, I think it was like blonde, and hold on. Shit. Hey, when you changed your hair, when I texted you that one time when you were in Japan, and you said, what was Rogue's hair? It was like blonde and red, right? When you were in Japan.
Yeah.
I said your Rogue looking ass. Okay, yeah. So that's what it was. Like I'd send her stuff like that. She'd send me stuff. She's over here eating goldfish, and like that's just how we just kept in contact. We became friends that way, and then Boardwalk Buds. Come on, Coda. Boardwalk Buds in AC is when we met for the first time. But especially when it comes to being on the road and being on shows and always being in communication, always being around each other. Like it's exasperating sometimes. There's always times there's times where she's like, "Get the fuck away from me," and I go, "Get away from me." Like, but because I think because we're always near each other all the time, we go through more tests than a lot of other couples do. But it's also we come out on the other side better because we stick through it, and we get all these experiences now rather than a lot of couples who will see each other like once or twice or 3 times a week. They'll invest 4 to 5 years in a relationship, then they actually come to live together, and it all crashes and burns. We're getting that experience now. But it's definitely, I think, been better for myself, and I'd like to think she'd think for herself, personally and professionally.
Well, the cool thing for me is I've been able to watch it from afar, and like even when you guys are different places doing different things, you're still connecting through Twitter because I can't imagine like when she signed with Impact and you signed with MLW, how much of your social media, like how much is that? Do you like it's another job, right?
I don't take social media that seriously. Like,
Okay, it's a tool.
It's a tool, but like I'm here to have money, make fun. Some people make social media their life, and I'm just like, I'm here to have a laugh. I'm here to have a good time. I'm here to make money. Some people, it's like their Bible, and I'm very much ambivalent when it comes to that. I'm very hands off. I see things I like, I tweet it, I retweet it, I move on. I'm not someone who is openly shitting on something 24/7 like some people. Which is, if that's their vice, cool, good for them. It's just not for me.
What do you think is going to be the most exciting part? Like honesty, like I dropped Hulu because I couldn't watch Raw live and they didn't have reels, and I picked up Sling so I could continue to watch MLW. How excited are you to continue? One, like, because we interviewed Delmia XO and we talked to Alex Kane, and the common theme that I keep seeing is like the people that are there that are working are bringing it every time you guys are together. Like it's just elevated every time. It's because the drive is there. Like, where do you see yourself like 5-6 years from now? Where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing?
Honestly, Japan. Like I don't have these grandiose dreams of going to WWE, which generally that's how that happens. You don't have the dream of going there, and then you somehow wind up there. But Japan is where I want to be. I would like to be killing it on the indies. Maybe I do things for a TV promotion here that let me go do whatever I want. But I would like to have tenure in Japan and go there, do tour, come back, go to tour, come back. I like to be that kind of guy. And then after that, who knows? Like I've joked with a couple of people. Like people will see. People always ask me because they'll see me interact with Shayna Baszler on Twitter sometimes, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, we literally became friends through wrestling, because I do a double wrist lock, and I always throw like some Volcon, EWFI, some ring stuff, and it always pops her, and we became friends that way, and we just talk about wrestling. But her and Mia Yim, like Mia texted me. Mia's one of the people that advised me when I was thinking about it. She was like, "You should do it. You should sign with MLW." She's like, "It'll be a good experience for you. Get your name out there, and it's going to definitely differentiate you from all the other deathmatch guys." And she's like, and then when you're done, she's like, you can come and you can be Shannon and I's little green boy and carry our bags and WWE. You know, it's like, if it pays well, sure. But like I guess that's also the thing about my career is I'm very relaxed about where I'm going to wind up next, because that's generally how my career's been. It's, I guess, relax. I go with the flow, you know, follow the winding road, and wherever it takes me, it takes me. I'm not going to try to force something to happen that's not going to happen, you know. Because then you sit there and you fight and you fight and you fight and you get so bitter and entangled over it. And when it doesn't happen, what do? You become that bitter person that you didn't want to be. And I've never wanted to be that bitter person that hates wrestling, hates other wrestlers, hates young wrestlers, and I'm only doing this for the paycheck. There's too many of those nowadays, and I'm like, that's not conducive to a healthy relationship with professional wrestling, because I fell in love with professional wrestling from a pure standpoint. Now, are there things that make me hate pro wrestling sometimes? Yes. But it's that temporary, like, when you're mad at your significant other, and you're like, I fucking hate you.
Yeah.
And in the back of your head, you're like, I don't hate you. Why did I say that? That's so shitty, petty, and mean. Or it's like with him. He'll do something, and I'll be like, why? Why would you do this?
Oh my
Why?
gosh.
You make me hate you. But in reality, I'm like, I don't hate him. He's my best friend. Like, I love him. You know, it's like, it's the same for wrestling. Like, I'll get so mad and angry about something, and I go, I don't hate it. I just hate this thing that's happening. Okay, whatever, move on. I'm not a tense person. I'm not a very angry person. And basically, whatever happens in pro wrestling happens. You know, if something winds up where, say, tomorrow I have to retire.
Right.
Okay, that's life. You can't fight life. You can't be bitter towards life. These things happen, and you just have to roll with it. You have to roll on to the next thing. You know, you have to take what life gave you and, you know, find something else. You know, and which is also why you invest in doing other things. You invest in finding other hobbies, so that way you're not so engrossed in pro wrestling that it's all that you think about too, because that'll make you hate pro wrestling too, I think. Because even like the world's best musicians don't play music all the time. They have other hobbies they do, because when they focus on these other hobbies, they get inspiration for their art, and that makes their art even better. But that's just what I think. You know, everyone has their own bias. Everyone has their own takes on it. But where do I want to be in 5 years? Japan. You know, I want to be in Japan. I want to be a regular in Japan. That's what I want to do. And in 10 years, who knows? Maybe AEW, maybe WWE. Who knows? Who knows what the landscape's gonna be in 10 years? Who knows if pro wrestling's gonna be a thing in 10 years? It's gonna be a thing in 10 years, but that's just, you know, the standard phrase that people will say of, "Oh, it's not even gonna exist." It's gonna exist, but who knows? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the landscape's always changing. I think for me, MLW, and we were conversing on Twitter a lot the other night after the show, is the production is amazing. The way it's presented, and I made this point, to me, it reminds me of old school NWA, because the floor, like whatever MLW ever does, like, don't change the floor, don't change the mats, don't change any of that, because I see it, for me, it's a huge mix of like a Lucha Underground, like with Matt Striker and all the other stuff, like just that presentation with the aesthetics that are around the ring. Dude, it's those little things that catch the mind's eye, that for people like me that have been watching it for a while, like, oh, it's a familiar thing that we see and we gravitate towards it.
It's got that smoky WCW vibe from like 95, 96, you know, when NWO was in 97, when NWO really started to take over, and like you had the entire stadium, there's just that smoke like in the crowd. Like, I feel that vibe a lot too. And this older NWAs too, I do agree. Lucha Underground aspects. Some might say Wrestling Society X.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, cool. Good. That's a deep dive right there. Perfect. That's awesome.
And I think too, there's a little tinge of like ROH, a little tinge of ROH in there. But the production is definitely because I remember 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I used to, before the pandemic, I'd like watched a little bit of MLW, and I'd say the production has upped its game a lot too. I always go say hi to the production guys before we, we even start the day, because like if you don't say hi to those guys, we don't have a show. So like they make us look really good. I've watched the clips, and the graphics and the video of Raven, Ricky, and I. It's just like you look at that and you're like, that's a high quality product, And with the presentation on Reels, it's been drawing more eyes, more, we've been doing really good numbers, and it's really, I'm really happy to see it, and I hope that the end of this run that we're doing, that they pick us up for more, or another place goes, no, this is a really good thing. We gotta snatch this up, because people seem really excited for it. People seem excited for the product, and myself and Ricky got on at a really good time, especially because we're kind of one of the centers of attention now.
Yeah, and to be perfectly honest, it's why I dropped Hulu. It's why I picked up Sling, so I could add Reels on there. It sold me, and it's just because I'm a fan of death matches, and I've been forever. And I think you hit on it earlier when you were talking about going back and watching matches, and like the psychology that even Ricky Shane Page, when Mansour went last night, the psychology in those matches for me helps that get over. And it tells the story eloquently enough, I believe, that if somebody's offended by blood, they're probably not going to be able to accept it a little more. But how hard is it for you to do like I see you, even people that do death matches like back to backs. You're doing like a Saturday, Sunday. You might be doing like GCW. You might like. How is it to go from that Friday night to that Saturday night, and you guys are still delivering in every match?
So I'll tell you, like 2020 to 2021 probably took a year or two off my life, just how the amount of death matches I was doing. 2021 summer, there was a string of shows in Indianapolis, and it was ICW affiliated, and I was on 8 shows, and I think one was non-death match. Like it was a tournament, 3 other shows, and then I did a UBFI match, which was like so relaxing and such a breath of fresh air. But it was within 2.5 to 3 days. I got really bad cuts on my arm from just a huge pane of glass, and I probably wrestled an hour and a half over the course of those 2.5 days, and it was the last show I couldn't walk. I had rolled my ankle so bad, like one of my friends who I'm in a group on the Indies with, Killer Be Killed, Hardway Heater.
Yes.
Our music was playing, and he had to carry me out because I was hobbling so bad. When I got in the ring, like my adrenaline started going and I could kind of function better, but by the end of it, I was a mess. But it wasn't like it was killing any kind of a creativity I had in the ring. It was just like you roll your ankle, It's hard to walk, man.
Right.
But I just power through it. I don't know what it is. Like I can get through I can get through 8 crazy death matches in a weekend. But it's that Monday, it's the day after where I'm laying there going, okay, don't talk to me. I'm dead. I'm dead now. This is where I die. Like it's not a matter of getting through the weekend. It's getting through the day after, when that hangover, when the adrenaline's gone and your body's going, brother, why did we do this to ourselves? And I go, because the money was okay.
Right.
Luckily that's not, my life anymore. Because man, like seriously, 2020 and 2021, people look at my back and they go, what happened? I go, literally those 2 years. Those 2 years just shredded my body and my knees. Like my knees went to shit at the end of 2020.
I don't know if, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was somewhere near like 200 matches during that time frame that you were in.
Oh God, I don't know. I really don't know.
It was a lot.
Like my first year, I wrestled for free a lot. I would go to like these fair shows where they'd have me do 3 or 4 matches in one day because I wanted to do the experience. I'd say, yeah, I'd do it. You know, it was local. I could do 3 or 4 matches with people that weren't very good, but you know, you get in there with these guys that aren't experienced or that aren't good, and you have to work with them, and you learns the do's and the don'ts. You know, that first year though, I had maybe I don't remember like 190 to 240 matches, and my back was already starting to be bad around that point. And I was wondering why, and I go, because you're wrestling all this for like no money, but you know it. Once again, those experiences made me who I am. So do I regret them? No. Do I tell people get paid? Yes.
You're probably like me. Like I gotta. So I saved this question as the last question. So what are your strains? What are your go tos? For you? For me, I'm a Bubba Kush, Gorilla Glue, maybe some Sour Diesel type of guy.
I don't know strains for the life of me. I take what Masha gives me, and she says smoke, and I go okay. I take what people give me. But I am a huge edible person. Probably to my own detriment because when I'm on edibles, I am a whole different animal. I become a crazy person. Like
I read a tweet about something about an orchestra in your mouth or something the other night.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me put context to it, okay? Because the way she said it, it makes me sound like a crazy person, which I am. But there's context to it. So after the Chattanooga ICW show, I went to the hotel, and we stopped, and we got this place called Cookout. And Cookout, you can spend $12 and get like so much delicious food. It's so good beyond the realm of comprehension. But I got all this food. I hadn't ate a lot all day. And I take this gummy. And I sat there in the hotel room tired. And I took this bite of this most delicious double cheeseburger. And it was like an orchestra was fucking me in the mouth. I was like, it was like chomp, music playing in my ears. And I was like, heaven. And then I got Seinfeld playing in the background. And so as this is happening, as this rush of beauty hits me, I hear doom, ding, 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 dong, and I'm like, this is life. This is what life was meant to be. And then she calls me, and I tell her this, and she's like, "Oh, that's a tweet," and I go, "Oh, okay." And then
Nice.
she did it. She didn't even put that I was eating food. It would have made sense to people then. She just made me sound like a crazy person.
No, it was over. It didn't matter. Context was not necessary. It was over.
Just like, okay, rewind. She put out a tweet like maybe a year ago, where it was like Kitchen Nightmares, but it's William Regal and I think whoever else, and they go to these indie promotions and they fix the promotions. And that was my idea that I came up with high as a kite, and she took it I said I was going to tweet it. She goes, okay. And she tweets it like the next day. And I go, how could you? And then it just takes off.
Yeah.
It's going on Reddit. It's going on everywhere else. And I'm sitting there doing this going, I look at her and she goes, oh, baby, don't worry. Like, more people care about my tweets than yours anyway. And I go, that's besides the point.
Yeah, right. Well, like Eric Bischoff said, any publicity is good publicity. Good or bad.
It's worse because then she basically did like the worst thing ever. And she puts, after she gets all the retweets and everything, she puts underneath, she goes, credit at the AKIRA win. I go, thanks, honey. Cool. Love that. And so I'll open up Google and I'll open up a new tab and it'll be like Masha Slamovich tweets out this funny tweet. And I go, really? Motherfucker, that was my idea. And she will still defend her actions to this day and go, no, it was a good tweet. It was a good tweet. It got more traction from my Twitter. And I go, I hate you.
Man, I really appreciate the time. I'm going to end this here, but I want you to hold on real quick. Thanks again so much for taking the time. Like, I know you're busy, and dude, I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time. I know how hard it is in your busy schedule and what you're going on, but it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to our listeners. So thanks for taking the time, man.
Not a problem, man. And any promotions that are listening, I would like to be busier. Hit me up. But
well,
no, I love doing these kinds of things. I love sitting here talking about wrestling, man. It's part of what we do, and if you can't sit here and talk about how much you love something, I think you don't really love it.
Yeah, let's. I'm going to end this, and we're going to talk about getting you out west. How about that?
All right.
TIWF, it's a Yeti, wrestling news source with the AKIRA way from Major League Wrestling, and just another deathmatch god. We appreciate your time, man.